together. And as Obama once said, together we can. So that is something I think all of us should learn to enjoy, to learn together and support each other in this class. So for today, I will start by saying that this course unit is a very important course unit in the sense that it explores the relationship between sociology or society and education. We need to make sure that relationship is very strongly emphasized in our study, beginning today and the following weeks to come. So I always begin by engaging even all my students into doing what we are going to do. So for this particular moment, I would like to lead you through the syllabus that we shall be following throughout this semester. It is a one-semester course unit, and as a whole semester, we will encourage your full participation online. This is not a physical one because of the way you are situated, located in different parts of the country or the world. So due to that, I will continue using the online platform. However, the online platform may have some changes to come in the few weeks. I understand we may have a different link beginning next week, so be prepared for that. When the link is sent to you, take care of it, note it, write it down, and keep it. And then two, there are certain specific rules we need to follow online. I know some of you may have joined from different locations. For example, you may go to a person's hotel somewhere, and the hotel has a bar. Then when you log on, there are people who can make noise around you. That can also disturb you. Please try to locate a place that is less noisy for you to be able to go through the lectures very well. Sometimes we may log on, but we get off air. Try to relog so that you are constantly on. Sometimes we are affected by things like bundles run out when you're in the middle of it. Please, let's try to make sure we load bundles that can take us for 2 hours, because this course unit will go for 2 hours. And then the other things include you taking care of your environment around you, because some of us sometimes don't care about that, but the environment around you will affect you a lot. One of the things the environment can affect you in is the area where you find children may be playing around you and you are busy trying to understand what's going on. So try to get a solution to that before any one of us in the class can interfere. Most often, if you know that the environment is very noisy, it is always good to maybe mute when the class is going on. You only talk when you are required to talk, or when the lecturer or the colleagues are asking you to say something related to a point that is raised. So I think these few guiding rules will help us a lot in our discussion. And now the syllabus is packed with so many items that I think we need to go together and see how they look like. Could we have a volunteer to read for us the course description only? Is there somebody who would like to try that for us? Any volunteer, please. You can unmute and you start. Any volunteer, please?
Doctor, just read the course description.
Yes, Samuel, send that.
Okay. Education is a social human process and activity intended for the socialization and development of the human person in order to fit in and develop society. Without quality education, how can a human person attain holistic development, and how can society attain social, cultural, political, economic, and moral stroke spiritual transformation. In this social context, there are 4 sociology of education, in bracket course, will discuss the symbiotic relationship between education and society.
Thank you so much, Samuel. You can stop right there. And colleagues, I hope you have heard what Samuel has read. This is an important introduction to this course unit. We had emphasized that this course unit or this subject will explore or examine the relationship, and we call this symbiotic relationship. Those of you who do biology, particularly sciences, you know what symbiosis is about. We want to explore the symbiotic relationship between education and society. And that is something very important for us to focus on. One of you can Google out what symbiotic means. That will be your homework a little later. But what is important here is the relationship between education and society, even vice versa, is very critical in sociology of education. And that is the reason why we are focusing on this key subject, so that we benefit from it in our profession as qualified teachers. You can imagine a teacher who doesn't know sociology, who doesn't know social interactions among the students and among fellow staff. That will be very tragic for the teaching profession, because by nature, you and I are human beings, and human beings are always characterized as social beings. That's why sociology of education is very important. Esther, would you unmute, or would you mute yourself? Sorry. Esther, would you mute? Thank you very much. Okay. So as I was explaining that, there is a need for us to do sociology of education, in the sense that we are social beings and education is a social human activity. Because of that nature, it is in order for us to understand how we interact among ourselves, how we respect one another, how we learn together, and how we support each other in the learning process. That's why this course unit is very important for every professional teacher. Now, what are some of these course objectives that we would like to achieve as we go through this? There are quite many, but one of them is the students will define key concepts in sociology of education. For example, we shall examine the concept like education into detail, because I now see some of you are not yet professional educators. So there is a need to define education. You may have heard about it, but we need to go into details there. We need to define society. We need to define human nature and nurture. Next, socialization. It is a process we need also to understand it. Classroom dynamics, gender, social mobility. These are key terms that are going to come in over and over again in sociology of education. The next objective is for us to explore the social nature of education. That is a key thing in sociology of education. Education is a social human activity. We need to make sure that is understood properly. The next one is to analyze the symbiotic relationship between education and society. We shall go into details into that and then try as much as possible to understand the relationship between education and society. The next one is we shall discuss human socialization processes. Those are key things for every teacher. When you have a class, there is social interaction going on. There is a way in which people are socialized, And we shall try to understand that word, socialization, as well. Then we shall also critique the agents of socialization. There are so many people who have influence on us in learning. So we shall try to critique all these agents of socialization. It can be a church, it can be a mosque, it can be peer groups, it can be the school, it can be the family. All these are agents of socialization. We want to critique them to see whether they're doing the right things or not. Sometimes we don't need to take every bit of the influence coming from the peers, because some of the influence can be negative. That is the critique we can come up with. The next one is, we shall examine the cultures and values of our societies. I will put societies because I don't know whether you are all coming from the same country. I don't think so. Some of you may come from Congo. Maybe there's somebody who comes from Rwanda. Maybe there's somebody from Kenya. So these can lead us into the discussion of the different cultures and values around the world. But we shall try to stick to the cultures and values of the society where you come from. The next one is, we shall discuss the influences on learners. When you are teaching somebody in your classroom, who is really influencing this learner? Is it you, the teacher, only? Probably not. We shall discover more about that. The next point is, we shall explore learners' abilities. That's always very important. The learner or the person you're teaching has different abilities. And as you can even relate this to yourself right now, each one of you has different abilities, and you can use them for your own benefit or for the benefit of society in different ways. That's also true with the learners we are going to teach in our teaching career. The next thing is, we shall evaluate, do a serious evaluation of the gender issues in relation to the way education is provided or education is carried out in our countries. So we need to take care of gender. You remember, people have been emphasizing girl-child education all over the planet and all over the world. The emphasis has been girl-child education. Now the critique is coming on board. What about the boy child? Is he safe? So we who are going to go through this course unit need to get some ideas around that so that we become a part of the solution. Lastly, we shall assess the relationship between education and social mobility. And that is also something we need to pay attention to, because how do people move in their careers, in their life? Is their education playing its role or not? We need to understand that part as well. So colleagues, these are the objectives we would like to achieve. And these objectives can be achieved when we respect the competences that can emerge when these objectives are achieved. So we hope at the end of this course unit, when you are done this semester, you will have achieved the following competences. 1, problem solving. Each one of us is going to learn how to solve a problem. And the problem can be of all nature. Can it be educational, since you are training or forming to become professional teachers? There are so many problems in the teaching profession, in the school environment. How will you solve each of these? So we shall pay attention to that. Competence in each one of you. And then the second competence is critical thinking and creative thinking. You can think critically, but are you creative? That question we shall try to answer it along the way and make sure we come out as critical and creative thinkers. The next one is ICT literacy. And I'm sure this will favor more my friend Samuel and other colleagues who are into ICT. We need the literacy in ICT. And those of you who probably fear touching the computer or your smartphones, this is the time to learn and get used to these items, because they help us learn a lot of skills, a lot of information searching. You will do your research using these gadgets, like the computer, internet, and then some of you will use your smartphones, but connected to the internet, so that we do your research. You send me emails, I reply via online platform. So all that will be the ICT literacy development that we shall try to attain as competence. The next competence is empathy and justice. And I'm sure some of you have heard people say, I'm sorry I did this to you. That is what we call sympathy. But empathy is different from sympathy. Do you care that your colleague who is suffering needs support and you give the support? That is empathy. Not just saying, I'm sorry you're suffering, you have lost somebody, and you stop there. Last week, I lost one of my lecturers who is my colleague from the Uganda Matters University. I had to travel all the way to Zombo district. Instead of just saying to the family, I'm very sorry, we have lost our good friend, I didn't stop there. I went up to the home of this gentleman. I gave whatever I could give to support the funeral arrangement. We prayed together in that family. We came back supporting one another, and we called each other to support each other for all these days. Up to now, it continues. That is empathy, not sympathy. And then justice, caring, and being respectful of one another. These are values which every teacher needs. So we shall make sure each one of us develops this. I'm aware that some of you have already these values, but as we do this course unit, we shall keep reminding one another that it is important to have empathy and justice. The next competence is effective communication. I'm sure some of you are now saying, how am I going to communicate? As a teacher, the whole teaching profession is run on communication. If you have a poor communication style, network, you are going to be in trouble as a teacher, because you wouldn't be effective. You will not even put across the content that you are teaching in a way that is understood by the learner. So communication is very important. You can communicate through writing. You can communicate through in a verbal way. You can communicate in other forms like body language. Some of you know that. Somebody nods a head, that is indicating something. That's also communication. And then there is cooperation and teamwork. All of us are going to try to work together. Nobody is going to be a loner to do it all by himself or herself. We shall try to solicit cooperation among ourselves. So sometimes I give you an assignment, you do it together. Sometimes I encourage you to find an assignment to do in your teams or in your groups, so that we form a team of teachers who are going to be professionals doing the work in teams, learning together with others. And then respect for diversity. Please, this is another key point that I would like each one of you to develop. Because in Uganda right now, we have trouble when it comes to living together, working together. That's why even as I'm talking here, we don't have a Uganda. Sorry to say that. And some of you may be hearing it for the first time. We may not have a Uganda right now. The reason being, each one thinks of my own family, my own tribe. Beyond my own tribe, there is nothing else. So there we have not formed the Uganda that we are talking fondly about. In practice, we don't see that. So that is something I think we need to start developing as mature people, respecting diversity, respecting people who may not be of my tribe, of my family. And we are all here in this class right now. We don't come from the same family, but we are here. We are learning the same things. So that forces us to respect diversity. Next is leadership. Leadership is an important competency which every one of you needs to nurture, develop, and come up with so that it can guide you. By leadership, I don't mean you become president, you become MP. No. A classroom teacher is a leader by his profession. So what you do in the class, you are leading the class. For example, the direction of the class, you may set rules. Beyond the rules, sometimes you dress in a certain way. You want the students or the learners to dress in a certain way. You are leading them. You become a role model to them. That is very important. Lastly, we shall also try to develop a competency called research. Research is very important, and every one of you should be a researcher. And who is a researcher? You are a person who searches for the truth. No matter where the truth is hidden, you want it out for people to see. And you do research around it. You identify a problem, you solve it, and you share it with the world. That is what researchers do. They find out things where things are a little hidden somewhere. These are the researchers I'm talking about. So a teacher is a researcher. Every time you try to do teach your course unit, whether mathematics or physics, make sure you have researched around it thoroughly well before you go to teach it. Learning outcomes. There are so many. Some of them we have already seen out there. So I think what we finally want you to see at the end of everything that you have done in sociology is that you can fit well in your society. That's what sociology of education is trying to prepare you for. Many times we struggle to fit in our society. Some of the reasons can be because of the different cultural settings, sometimes because of your generation, you are younger, and the society has older people in the villages. You can't fit well with the older people. So how can a young person like you fit in a generation that is older than you? For instance, the students you are teaching in your schools, how do you relate well with them? How do you work well with them? We need to make sure that is achieved. And then students you will value education as one of the best means for human development and developmental society. So at the end of this course unit, you will be in that mode. And then you will appreciate your cultures and values, because here your culture and values will be respected and well utilized throughout this course unit. Most of the assignments will even ask you to explore your culture in relation to how you teach other children of different cultures. So that is very important, appreciating your cultures and values so that we utilize them in enriching the school curriculum, teaching and learning. And then you will also utilize the socialization processes that we shall learn about. How does the family influence the learner you are teaching? How does the church, where the child you are teaching goes to, influence that child's education and life? You will have to start appreciating all those influences and also critique them in the sense that some of these influences can be very wrong. Take an example of an influence from a church where I went to, and we were told by the pastor that you should not donate blood. So somebody has an accident, is bleeding to death, you can't donate blood. And for me, I'm a blood O type universal donor. I can't donate. That to me was like I was becoming somebody collaborating in the killing of that person who had the accident. So I rejected that type of teaching from the pastor. I told the pastor that was wrong and he was doing it illegally and he was going to kill more people by that. Others say when you fall sick with the malaria, you don't need to go to the hospital for treatment. Instead, you go to the church, people will pray over you and you will be okay. Hey, some people died in the churches because of that. So we need to be very careful what we sometimes tell the people. Some of the influences, socialization processes, or influences that are put on our children are very unhealthy. We need to critique them. Others are good. We need to embrace those. Lastly, we shall actively, empathetically, and justly appreciate, participate in the development of our society. Sometimes when you look at Uganda today, sometimes you see the president pleading with the people of Uganda, please, let us develop our country. But some people have their own ways of looking at it. Because for many, they don't think of Uganda as a country. They think of Uganda as their family. So they would rather prefer developing their stomachs than developing Uganda. So you can see the issue of corruption still sticking out so strongly, and Uganda has not overcome it until now. So those are some of the things we need to start reflecting on as colleagues and so on. There are many others I wouldn't want to read through, but I'll email you this later after our class, because you will have shared with me your email addresses later. And then how shall we teach this course unit? The modes of delivery. We shall use a combination of other methods. One method will be lectures, online Zoom lectures, which we are now doing today. And then we shall also use the internet for communication, research, and exchanging our own ideas, our own assignments. Probably even we may use it for emailing our research papers, because I may ask you to do a research paper, and then you will email it to me. I'll send you the assignment via internet. And then we shall use some case studies here and there. We bring a case, we reflect on it together, then we see the way forward. That could be one way also to deliver or to teach this course unit. The other one is student researches and presentations. Each one of us is going to do some form of research on an assigned topic, and you present it before the class using this Zoom platform. And you will learn it as time goes on. And I will tell you when we shall start doing those presentations. The next one could be field excursion, but here we are limited in the sense that we are doing it online. So we shall skip that part of field excursion, unless there will be an assignment which I can give you to go out from your comfort zone to other schools to find out what is going on there. I will assign you that, then you could utilize that field excursion. Group discussion will be another common phenomenon. We will need to establish our own groups. And I can see you are quite a number here, about over 10. So that will mean we could easily form like 2 to 3 groups of discussing a discussion, so that anything going on in the class or an assignment, we can sit down and discuss them together in our groups. Lastly, we have peer teaching. Peer teaching is very key in our profession as teachers. So what will happen here is that each one of you will do a presentation on a research that you have done, and you will teach us, your peers, in that sense. So teach us the topic you have come up with and you would like us to share. And it should be a topic within the area of sociology of education. We shall see how that will work as we continue. How will I assess you? This is always an important part by every teacher, every institution. We need to give you marks. How will the marks be allocated? One, you will be given a written assignment. Probably this will take place in the middle of the semester. You will do a written assignment. I'll give you the assignment so that you do your research on it early, and then you write it out, maybe 5 pages to 10 pages, depending on the nature of the assignment. That will carry 100%, and it will be your coursework. The next one is your final assessment, which can be your final examination, or it can be a research project that you will write. We shall decide upon that together with you and see whether we do a final examination or we do a research project. And that will be also 100%. So in the end, we add the two, divide by 2 to get your final marks for sociology of education. So that is the assessment. What about the contents of this course unit that we are going to learn? Colleagues, there are quite a number of course contents that we are going to go through here. One is the development of the human person as a social being. All of us are going to reflect on that. Good enough, I have some priests among us here, and I'm very excited to hear from them because they did philosophy. And the philosophy is very interesting when you use it in education. So sociology of education will also borrow a lot of ideas from philosophy. For example, human nature and the nurture discussions. We shall reflect on that together. So I hope the priests in here or brothers in here who have done philosophy will take note of this. And please, I will invite you to give your contribution so much here. And then the next content is reflection on education as a means of socialization and development of the human person. We shall reflect on that because it is an aspect of sociology of education. Number 3, education and the nature of society. We shall have a lot of discussion on that. You can see it as 4 hours of discussion. That's almost 2 weekends. And then we have human socialization processes. We shall look at the family. We shall look at the religious organizations. We shall look at the things like the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda or whichever country, because those are institutions that can socialize us. There are many others who could add there, the mosque and so forth. And then agents of socialization. What are these particular agents of socialization? How do they influence us? We have 8 hours for that. That's almost 4 weeks. The next number is, we shall look at a theory of overlapping spheres of influence, and then how this theory is related to education and your profession as a teacher. So we shall reflect on Joyce Epstein's theory of overlapping spheres of influence. You can even Google Joyce Epstein and start reading that ahead of time. And then there's another theory which is so important in sociology of education. That is Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Multiple intelligences. This is a very important theory. We shall look at it. As a teacher, you should know that you don't have one intelligence. You have many intelligences. And we shall explain what that means. Next is gender and education. Equal access to education, provision of quality education in our society. That is what we shall be reflecting on at length. So colleagues, it is very important. We need to work on all this. And then lastly, education and social mobility. Does education help us to move socially in terms of our careers? If you're a priest, can you also become a teacher? If you are, let us say, an ICT person, can you become also a teacher? If you are an ICT person, can you become the president of the Republic of Uganda or Kenya? Does education help you to do that? That is the question we shall try to answer here. So colleagues, these are the few contents we want to cover this semester. It is already apportioned in terms of hours, so we shall try to do that as much as we can. Now, the next thing is you have to achieve everything we have so far stated, but how do you reach there? You need study reference materials. And these references can be got from all sources. You can access them via internet. You can access them via our library system. I hope now our library has reached you in how you can access reading materials from the library. But if you don't know, you can still use the internet to access most of these items that are highlighted here. And I will send you a few of them also online for you to read on your own. So these are quite many, but I will select a few that are very basic so that you can use them in our sociology of education discussions. So I think those are the things I wanted us to first go through. And then I will give you a chance to ask questions related to this, and we see a way forward together. So colleagues, does that make sense? Any questions around the syllabus before I move on? I can see Phoebe seems to have unmuted, and maybe you have something you would like to share. Any questions, clarifications, please? This is the moment. Yes, Henry. The whole class is quiet. Are you satisfied with what has been presented? Senda.
Yes, Dr. May, I just want to put more light on a few days excursions. I don't think it well. Yeah.
Field excursions. That means you can go out to learn outside of the classroom or outside of the Zoom lecture platform. For example, maybe we could ask you to go to visit a school. And in visiting the school, you document or you write down whatever you experienced in that school. That would be a field excursion. But it can take different shapes. Some of you may go into, let us say, into a church to observe how people are influenced by the church pastor or the priest or the catechist and so forth. Or you can go to a mosque to pray. And when you're praying there, we can ask you to find out how the mosque influences people's behavior and so forth. So that is what I mean.
Okay, Doctor, thank you. Then the other one is because Dr. Dele was communicating about we are only supposed to use only Harvard referencing style. Is the university only one, requires only one referencing style when you are making our research papers?
You are right. The university uses only one style called the Harvard referencing style. And that is for everybody from undergraduate, we could say from diploma level up to the PhD level, we use that. And some of you may wonder, how does the Harvard referencing style look like? The answer is given you here in the references I've already shared with you. Let me turn to that so that you see exactly what I mean by the Harvard referencing style. The style is written in this format. You can see the first author is Adu Febiri, and his Christian name or maybe the other given name is F. Can be Francis, can be another. But what is important here, Adu Febiri is one name, though you see a hyphen between Adu and Febiri. So that is the surname of the author, separated from the other names with a comma. And then after that, you abbreviate the Christian name or the Muslim given name, and then you separate it with a comma. The year is written in brackets, like the way 2020 is.
Doctor, thank you very much.
To become human. Hello?
Yes, doctor, we are listening.
Yeah. So that is what I'm trying to share with you right now here. This is a very important.
Our different emails to the class platform, or you have them with you, since you talked of sending us this presentation you have done today by mail. Thanks. Thanks.
Odeke, please. Miss Odeke, please mute your mic. There's noise in the background as we wait for doctor.
Hello, Namtesa, are you on air?
Yes, I'm on air.
Can you give me the host rights to share my screen, please? Because you are now the host.
I'm wondering, how can I press to give you the host right? Because I'm also wondering how it came about.
Towards after, when you see to your right-hand side, there is a dialog box with the 3 dots. Can you click in there?
Yes,
Just by your name.
I've clicked there.
What do you see there?
I'm seeing meeting settings, disconnect audio and sociology.
Can you enable sharing for us?
I'm seeing the button for share, but I don't know how I can enable it.
Have you clicked it?
I've clicked where I'm seeing share. I don't know where that's where I should click.
Yeah, for you, you can do it, but because you are the host, and for me, who is sharing the screen, I can't share because you are now the host, unless you give me, you allow me to the host's right. Or can you assign the host right to me so that I can share?
How can I do it? Just point me with where to click.
Senda, can you help us?
Everything is the host rights, unless
Yes.
they reverse the rights, but it's with her now. She's the host, so she has everything. Because even on my screen, I'm seeing the host disabled, participant screen sharing.
That is the problem right now.
Yeah.
She needs to do that for us. Or what she could do, you log out and log in again.
Okay, let me log out.